Well, good morning, church. We're going to be growing in the Proverbs, and today we're going to look at Proverbs chapter 4. We're really only going to look at the first 9 verses. If you remember yesterday, as we read the whole proverb, that it broke out into 3 sections, and that was 1 through 9, it was 10 through 19, and then you're going to see 20 down to 27. Let me just point that out real quickly again, why we broke that out that way. Verse 1 says, "Hear, O sons, of father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight." So he's calling to sons at this point. And then in 10, he says, "Hear, my son, and accept my words, for that years of the life may be many." And so he calls out again to sons. And then in 20, "My son, be attentive to my words." So there's 3 times in the psalm he calls out to sons. Now, I should note that in the first verse, he's calling to many sons. It's a plurality of sons. But then it seems like there's at least a son that listens to him. And so in verse 10 and verse 20, you get the son that has come to listen. And so let's go back to verse 1, and I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 9. And as I do that, listen through this and try to pick up repetitive themes, ideas, words even, and see anything that might stand out as a way that Solomon is trying to draw these sons to himself. "Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight. For I give good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son, with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words. Keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, get insight. Do not forget, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guard you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. So these are just the first 9 verses, and it's a father calling out to his sons. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction. Now, we generically hear that and we say fathers need to teach their children. And that is true. And it is good to remember that. But let's remember that these fathers were seated in Israel. And when they hear fathers are supposed to be teaching their sons, you would think of the Shema, where the parents are supposed to be teaching these to their children while they're walking on the way, while they're in the house, while they're sitting down to eat, while they're laying down, when they're getting up, all times of the day. The parents are supposed to be teaching the Shema, or the commands, or the things that the Lord has commanded to teach the children. And so we have at least that in mind, that this isn't just general worldly wisdom. This is a wisdom that is from above. This is a wisdom that comes down from the Lord. This is a wisdom that comes from knowing and understanding the laws that the Lord has given. And then you also need to remember that this is Solomon teaching his sons. And so Solomon teaching his sons, he gained wisdom. And he didn't gain wisdom from merely his intellect and understanding the world. He gained wisdom from the Lord when he prayed and asked. And the Lord asked him, "Ask me of anything and I'll give it to you." And he says, "I need wisdom." And he got wisdom, and he was the wisest king that ever lived until Christ. And so that's who's giving this instruction. And that's what he's saying I can give to you. Now, also notice that he got this kind of wisdom from his father. Now, yes, we just talked that ultimately that came from his heavenly father, but he was taught it young that you need to be asking for it, you need to be seeking it, you need to get it from David, his father. He says, when I was a son, the father, and with my father, tender in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me. And the rest of the rest of 4 down to 9 is what David taught Solomon. And so we're getting what David taught Solomon that triggered in Solomon's mind that when the Lord is going to ask you what it is that you want, that you need to pray to get wisdom. And so he says, be attentive and that you may gain insight, for I give good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. So this wisdom that you get is a wisdom that ultimately comes from God, but the desire for it comes from a father teaching his son. This is one of the most important things that you can get. So you need to seek it and you need to get it from the Lord. So what does David tell Solomon? David tells Solomon this: let your heart hold fast my words and keep my commandment that you may live. 2 things that I'll tell you right out of the gate of that caught my eye is it's your heart. It's the internal person. It is what makes the decisions, your conscience, your will, your intellect, your affections and emotions. That part of you is what needs to hold to the heart, to these commandments. So this is no mere, I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to have activity that I can keep the commands or those kinds of things. There's no external rituals. This is a heart issue. And the heart issue, he says, hold fast to my words, keep my commandments and live. The idea is live well, find good life. The heart and gaining this wisdom from David is going to allow him to live and live well, to be have the abundant kind of life. If you want to live, if you really want to live, if you just don't want to keep commands, if you just don't want to be doing the rituals in Israel, then turn your heart over to my words and you'll find this kind of life. And it is a pleasant, good kind of life. He says, get wisdom, get insight. Do not forget and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. So turn your heart so that your heart is in pursuit of wisdom and your heart is in pursuit of insight. Don't forget that this is what you need, because the world is going to tell you you need a whole bunch of other things. So don't forget, don't turn away from the words of my mouth. So don't do it. Go get it, get wisdom, get insight. And don't forget, don't forsake. And then he all of a sudden changes his mode of talking to Solomon. He talks to Solomon as if wisdom was a young lady that he needs to pursue. A young lady, he needs to win her heart. Wisdom is definitely not like the commands. Wisdom is something you woo from the Lord. You're going to be in pursuit as you would be pursuing a young lady to get married. And listen to what he says. Do not forsake her, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guard you. Don't forsake her. Don't forget that you made that date with her. Don't forget that you said you would prize her, because that's what we're going to see. Look at these. Don't forsake, love her, prize her, embrace her. Those are your commands, if you were, to follow after wisdom and to pursue wisdom. Don't forget about her. Think about her all the time. And then it says to love her. So don't forget about her. Cause your heart to love her, prize her, value her more than anything, and then embrace her. Embrace her. So you go from thinking about her to loving her to valuing her highly, so that you're have her in your arms and you're not going to let her go. And this is a pursuit as if wisdom was a young lady that you wanted to date and maybe possibly marry. And so you're going to pursue wisdom this way. Now, don't forsake her, and she will keep you. She's going to keep your life. She's going to keep your life living well, remember. Love her, and she will guard you. She will guard your life. Your good living, she's going to guard. And then he says this, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get understanding. So again, he's telling you it's wisdom and insight that you are to be pursuing, and it's the highest prize that you can get. And then he says to prize her highly. Why? She will exalt you. She will exalt you in your life. She will honor you if you embrace her. So she's going to exalt, and she's going to bring you honor in your life, in the way that you live, in the abundance of your life. She's going to do those things. And then verse 9, she will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. She's going to make your life pleasant. She's going to make it good, and she's going to put this garland, this thing that people will see on your head, this prize. Others will recognize it, and this beautiful crown she's going to bestow on you, the crown of life, the garland of life, that you would win the prize, that you won her heart, that she's the one who she's now giving herself to you, as it were, because you have given yourself to her. These are the things that we're seeing in verses 1 to 9. And you can see it is a heart of loving this kind of wisdom. And again, it's wisdom that comes from being in the right community, the religious community that's teaching you about the Shema and the laws of God. But it's not ritual. It's a heart issue. It's a love issue. And if you love wisdom, she will give you life. She will honor you, guard you, exalt you with this crown of life. That is kind of what we're seeing here in verses 1 to 9. Come back tomorrow and we'll look at 10 through 19. Have a good day, church.